Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my week number 8 quarterback start or sit decisions for the 2024 fantasy football season, going in depth through every single matchup from Thursday Night Football all the way up until Monday Night Football, telling you whether I believe you should start or sit the quarterbacks in all of those games. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 8 quarterback start or sit decisions for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the cold like Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams. Now, for the Rams, Puka and Kupp will allegedly be back this week, which is great for Matthew Stafford's fantasy value and is great for anyone that drafted Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. But this week, up against one of the toughest defenses in the National Football League, and with Matthew Stafford, who has been on the struggle bus weekly, even with his weapons back, I don't expect him to magically transcend and become a top 18 or even a top 14 quarterback. He hasn't been a top 14 quarterback since back in week 1 in Detroit. And frankly, I think there's a very slim chance that he ends up doing it this week up against the Vikings. So to me, he is a clear sit. Now, mono man Sam Darnold inside of the USA has been a top 14 quarterback in every game. Now, in London, up against the Jets back in week 5, he was the quarterback 27. So with no more games outside of the country on the schedule, Sam is a great bet to finish inside of the top 12 weekly. This week, up against a Rams defense that has more holes than a fishing net, I do expect him to finish inside of the top 8, especially since rumor has it that TJ Hawkinson will be back. Moving to Sunday, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. Now, Lamar Jackson has been very clearly the most consistent quarterback in all of fantasy football. He has been a top 12 quarterback every single game. So all 7 games, he has finished inside the top 12, and he has been a top 6 quarterback in 5 of those 7 games. And even with Derrick Henry putting defenses in a sleeper hold weekly, Lamar Jackson still finds ways to dominate. Last week up against Tampa on Monday Night Football, he beat that defense to a pulp, 17 of 22 for 281 yards, and not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdowns, as well as 9 rushes for 52 yards up against a Browns defense. I am feeling real nicey about Lamar Jackson as a top 3 quarterback. Now, for Jameis Winston, I am probably one of Jameis Winston's biggest fans. I love how funny the guy is, and I just love his style of playing football, where it's basically, fuck it, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, David Njoku's out there somewhere. You throw a missile into quadruple coverage, and maybe your guy comes down with it, or maybe the defense gets a pick 6, but it's very fun to watch. And if I expanded the start-worthy quarterback list by a few spots, I would have included Jameis Winston, who went 5 of 11 for 67 yards and a touchdown in relief for Deshaun Watson, as well as DTR last week. Now, Jameis, to me, is either going to be 20 plus points or like 7 points. If you're looking for a spark to your team, then Jameis can be that. But with the wide receiver core being no bueno, and with Amari Cooper eating buffalo wings with Josh Allen in Buffalo, Jameis doesn't make the cut to be a start-worthy guy. But again, I do still like him this week. He is just a couple of spots off of actually being listed as a starter. Next up, we got the Tennessee Titans at the Detroit Lions. Now, Mason Rudolph should be the starter because Will Levis is week to week with the AC sprain. It feels unlikely to me that he would suit up against the Lions. Anytime you hear week to week, they are basically out at least for 1 game. That is basically a stone cold lock, which means that we're going to be getting Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, up against the Lions. Now, Rudolph looked mid, which is just expected. That's what Mason Rudolph is. He isn't so laughably bad anymore to where it's like funny to watch. Like, oh, this guy's so shit, he's gonna drop back and walk out of the end zone, Dan Orlovsky style, or he's gonna do some incredibly stupid things. He's just gonna be okay. And That's not great for fantasy. Last week up against Buffalo, 25 of 40 for 215 yards with a touchdown and a pick. Even with the wide receiver weapons that the Titans have, there is no reason to start a guy like Mason Rudolph due to the fact that his upside is incredibly limited. Now, Jared Goff has looked mighty fine, just like his wife, over the last 3 games as a top 11 quarterback in all games and a top 4 quarterback in 2 of the last 3 games. Now, last week up against a rock-hard Vikings D, he was the quarterback number 11, going 22 of 25 for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. Up against a underrated Titans defense, I got him in that high-end quarterback 2 to low-end quarterback 1 range, meaning you could argue for him to be ranked anywhere from the quarterback 10 to the quarterback 14 up against the Lions. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. Now, back in week number 1, up against the Texans, Anthony Richardson went nuclear. He went off as the quarterback number 4 with 9 completions on 19 attempts for 2 touchdowns and a pick with 6 rushes for 56 yards and a touchdown. But based on what we have seen after that, there is no reason to believe that he is going to have a similar showing. 3 straight games outside of the top 20, and with the Texans defense looking way better than they looked back in week 1 when they actually played against each other, I want to abandon ship on Anthony Richardson. Now, would I be completely awestruck? Would my jaw be hitting the floor if Anthony Richardson finished as a top 10 quarterback? No, because we know the upside is deep inside of him. But we also know the guy could play incredibly terribly like he's done for a majority of this season. And again, with the Texans defense looking a lot better, I have no interest in Anthony Richardson. Now, CJ Stroud was seeing ghosts last week, like his name was Kanye West and Kid Cudi last week in a Lambeau Field as the quarterback number 29. 10 completions on 21 attempts for 86 yards and 0 touchdowns. 5 rushes for 19 yards. This Colts matchup, though, is far easier, and even without Nico Collins, I believe that Stroud is going to lay a pipe to the Colts defense, Mario style. Back in week number 1, he was the quarterback 8 up against the Colts defense, and I expect a, at bare minimum, top 12 showing here out of Stroud. Next up, we move to the Green Bay Packers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Packers defense just locked up CJ Stroud and threw away the key, leading to Trevor Lawrence playing like Deshaun fucking Kaiser, Cleveland Browns legend. So T-Law has been all right as of recently. So I'm not going to fully shit on him. It's not all his fault. It's all your fault that the Jaguars are terrible. But in this type of a matchup, even with touchdown Jesus, T-Law looking so good, I don't feel comfortable at all playing him. Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, has been a top 12 quarterback in 4 of 5 games, and he has been a top 3 quarterback in 2 of 5 games. Last week, up against a solid Texans defense, he was the quarterback 10 with over 200 passing yards and 3 touchdowns with 2 picks. Now, if he could shake off the inner Favre that is inside of him, and he stops throwing a pick every single game, he may finish as the quarterback 1. Now, shaking off a little bit of Favre is relatively easy if you've seen what Favre's packing, but honestly, even with him throwing a pick or more weekly against a Jaguars defense that quarterbacks have eaten alive Jeffrey Dahmer style, I love, miss your love, to finish as a top 6 quarterback on the week. Next up, we move to the Arizona Cardinals at the Miami Dolphins. Now, Tua himself said that he would return to practice on Wednesday, and he will play on Sunday up against the Cardinals. As a Dolphins fan who has been subject to quarterback play that makes me want to dolphin dive Black Ops 1 style down Niagara Falls, I am ecstatic to see Tua Tagovailoa return. Now, it is entirely possible that he is rusty early on, but with the weapons that he's got, he could easily have a top 12 or even a top 10 showing like he did back in week number 1 up against the Jaguars. I'm not going to sit here and sip the Kool-Aid and be super optimistic and rank him as this elite top 10, top 12 option. I've got him in the quarterback 2 range. I do believe he has the upside, though, to drop kick that Cardinals defense. Kyler Murray, the short king, has not looked great this season, but his rushing upside continues to bail the guy out. He has had a rushing touchdown last week up against the Chargers that was humongous. That was one of the best rushing touchdowns I've seen from a quarterback in a long time. 6 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown, and he was 14 of 26 for 145 yards and a touchdown with an interception through the air. As a Dolphins fan, I already know that we are going to struggle mightily with wrapping Kyler up. And what I mean by that is we're going to get to Kyler. We're going to get to him fast and furious, okay? But what's going to happen is someone's going to grab him, just like what happened against Anthony Richardson, and he's just going to shake him off a little bit. He's going to be able to make guys miss who should clearly have him. Why? Because the Dolphins' defense fucking sucks against rushing quarterbacks. So while I am nervous to play Kyler because he has been so up and down all season, completely hit or miss against my Dolphins, I got him as a mid to low end quarterback number 1. Next up, we move to the New York Jumbo Jets at the New England Patriots. But before we talk about Rodgers and Drake May, as well as the rest of the quarterbacks in today's video, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do have been enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. I would also like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, you'll be able to claim your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So if you sign up with promo code Notorious tomorrow, you'll receive Victor Wembanyama higher than half of a point. So if you're watching this Monday night after the Lakers game has played, or if you're watching this on Tuesday, the free pick will be Victor Wembanyama higher than half a total point. You match that with any other basketball play or any other player in the National Football League, and both of your picks hit, you receive 3 times your entry fee. If you do multiple picks, then the payout will be higher. If you're watching this after Tuesday, Victor Wembanyama has already played, and you're like, Nick, what happens if I use promo code Notorious, or click on the link in the video description? You receive a different NBA player higher than half a total point, or an NFL player higher than half of a total yard. So make sure you guys check that out again. Promo code Notorious to claim your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So back on into things here. Draco May versus Aaron Rodgers. Mr. Discount, double check, Mr. Immunized. Rodgers, despite getting his way and trading for Devontae Adams, and now having an elite duo at the wide receiver position, plus Allen Lazard, who has been looking solid, and having a great running back in Breece Hall, he went out there up against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football with all of this hope. He was the great hope of the Jets offense. They're finally going to do it. They're finally going to figure it out. Everything is going to go right up against the Steelers. And you know what happens? The guy shits down his pant leg. 24 of 39 for 276 yards and 1 touchdown with 2 INTs. With the season on the line, with his back against the wall, I do expect Rodgers to finish strong this week. But honestly, based upon his resume as a New York Jumbo Jet this season, he is in the quarterback 14 to 18 range. Now, Draco May unloaded the clip into the Jaguars defense in London last week as the quarterback 7, going 26 of 37 for 276 yards and not 1 but 2 tugs, 3 rushes for 18 yards as well, which marks his second start in the National Football League and his second start inside of the top 10 at quarterback. Even with Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson Hadoukening the Jets defense last week, I do think the defense will get a little bit harder here. They'll spark up. They'll play better up against a rookie quarterback in a must-win game. Now, May isn't must-sit, right? He's not like, you know, what Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew are, right? He's not like some complete and utter fucking bum like Spencer Rattler. So if you have to play him, there are much worse options than him. But again, he's not in the start-worthy range. He is very, very close to it, though. Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Kirk Thuggins has been down astronomically over the last 2 weeks. Back-to-back games outside of the top 20. But there is hope that this is the game where he comes back, right? Where things go his way. Back in week 5, up against Tampa, he sliced and dice through them like he was playing in Fruit Ninja. He was the quarterback one. He had over 500 passing yards and 4 touchdowns with 1 INT. Now, while I doubt he's going to replicate those stats, throw for 500, drop his nuts into the defense's mouth multiple times, 4 fucking touchdowns, right? I don't expect that, but I do expect him to be at least a high-end quarterback too, with the upside of finishing much better. Now, Baker has been the quarterback two, not a quarterback two like, oh, the quarterback 13 or 15 or 16, right? No, he has been the quarterback number 2 in back-to-back games and has been a top 5 quarterback in 5 of 7 games, and he only has 1 game outside of top 8, which was a disaster class up against the Broncos back in week 3, where he was the quarterback 27. Now, it definitely sucks ass that Chris Godwin is probably done for the season. And it definitely sucks that Evans will certainly miss time with the hamstring injury. I think even with this ragtag group at wide receiver, and with Rachaad White being a great pass-catching running back, and with Cade Otton at tight end, Baker should still be a top 12 quarterback. Now, if it all fell apart, if it was a shit game here, I wouldn't be surprised. But with how red hot Baker is, I got to keep rocking with him as a top 10 to 12 quarterback. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Hurts has ripped off back-to-back top 8 games. Coming out of the bye week, he went 10 of 14 for 114 yards and a touchdown, as well as 7 rushes for 22 yards and 2 tugs up against the Giants last week in MetLife. While the Bengals defense has looked better in the last 2 cupcake matchups, I think the Eagles are going to turn that good trend upside down, right? They're going to go from being this defense that's got a lot of energy, a lot of life into them, and I think the Eagles are going to front-hand, backhand them like that Key and Peele sketch. With A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith healthy, Hurts belongs with a crown on his head like the Burger King as a top 3 quarterback. Slim Shiesty Joe had a down showing compared to the rest of the season outside of week 1, where he was just terrible up against the Patriots last week in Cleveland. He was 15 of 25 for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns, which isn't a bad game, right? You're not like, oh, Joe Burrow was so shit, he shit down his pant leg, he's awful, but that wasn't good compared to what we thought he would do, right? But up against Philly, this could end up being one of the highest scoring games on the week, if not the highest scoring game of the week. And I expect Burrow to have an, at minimum, top 12 showing against the Eagles, and I got him inside of the top 6. Next up, we move to the New Orleans Saints at the Los Angeles Chargers, which begins the 4 p.m. slate. Now, I would rather get into a time machine, hop in the hot tub time machine back to 1986 and take on prime Mike Tyson over starting Timu Patrick Mahomes, aka Spencer Rattler, or playing Justin Herbert the pervert. Now, I know there is a slim chance that Carr returns with the oblique injury this week, but even if he is back, you would have to have a hole in the head to play him up against the Chargers defense. While Rattler didn't throw a pick last week, he was sacked 6 times and threw for just 172 yards on 25 attempts. There is no need to start him here. Justin Herbert had his best game on the season last week. How good was it? It was the quarterback 17 up against the Cardinals, so that's not good. His best game, but not good. I really do believe that Herbert is a talented player, and I don't believe that his fantasy finishes mean that he magically turned in the opposite direction and now sucks. But in such a run-heavy offense, there is never a need to fire up Herbert. How the fuck did I say that? There's no need to fire up Herbert, who has thrown more than 1 touchdown in just 1 game this season, back up against the Panthers in week number 2. Next up, we got the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Josh Allen had me in the first half, I'm not going to lie. The whole offense was sluggish. The whole offense looked anemic in the first half against the Titans, but then they came out the tunnel in the second half looking like a completely different unit. As the quarterback number 6, he went 21 of 33 for 323 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the shocking part of it was he played so well, and he only had 1 rushing yard, which I don't think will be the case this week. I think he'll get at least 2. The Seahawks defense has been minced meat as of recently, so I expect a top 6 showing out of Big Josh. And don't mistake what I just said with Pig Josh from Red Dead Revolver. If you've ever played that game, you know what I'm talking about. I used to play that as a kid. Shout out to my dad for showing me that game. Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks has been another one of those guys that's over-reliable. Now, he hasn't been as reliable as Lamar Jackson, but he's been a top 12 quarterback or better in 5 of 7 games and a top 10 quarterback in 4 of those games. While the Bills' defense stifled the Titans' offense last week, there's a large difference between the Titans under Mason Rudolph and Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I fully understand. Without DK Metcalf, that sucks. Now, technically, there's still a small chance that DK Metcalf suits up, but again, let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. He's probably not going to fucking play. So that will leave JSN, Tyler Lockett, in my pocket, Skirt, Fant, and Walker to throw the rock to from Geno. And even with that, I still think he's a fringe top 12 starter, especially since this game could be a real high-scoring one. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears at the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. Now, Marcus Mariota turned back the clock to late 2010s, as bro was cooking like Bobby Flay cooked Ari's wife in Entourage. 18 of 23 for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns in relief of Jaden Stormy Daniels with 11 carries for 34 yards. And while that was a great throwback performance, and it was awesome to see because I do like Marcus Mariota, I don't think anyone hates Marcus Mariota except for maybe like Falcons fans, but I just don't see that happening again, especially up against a Bears defense that allows the second least amount of points per game quarterbacks. Now, even if Jaden Daniels was starting and didn't have the rib injury again, I really don't think he's going to play, right? He just magically, we're in an alternate timeline, right? He doesn't get hurt on the first play of the game up against the Panthers. I would be nervous to play him. Now, would I play him? Yes, but I wouldn't be expecting too much. So with Marcus Mariota not being anything close to what Jaden Daniels is, there's no way you could start him. Now, Caleb Williams, things are looking great for him. Coming out the bye week against a Commanders defense that is bottom of the barrel. I am chubbed up just thinking about it. This is beautiful. Caleb has been a top 6 quarterback in back-to-back weeks and looked surgical up against the Jaguars in his last game prior to the bye in London. Quarterback 1 finish with 23 completions on 29 attempts for 226 yards and 4 tugs with 1 INT and 4 rushes for 56 yards. This team is oozing with talent around him. This is what we talked about all summer. When Caleb Williams finally starts to percolate, once he gets his head onto his shoulders, once he figures things out, Caleb Williams with the weapons around him can dominate 50 Shades of Grey style, and I expect him to knock the Commanders defense out of the park like his name was Barry fucking Bonds as a top 8 quarterback. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Denver Broncos. Now, Big Dick Bo let it hang in 2 of the last 3 games. Quarterback 8 up against the Raiders in week 5. I kind of sounded like Scooby-Doo there, right? And quarterback number 9 against the Chargers the following week. Now, last week was one of those games where he wasn't the best up against the Saints. He didn't play all that well, but he still finished in the top 18 against a Panthers defense that allows the 4th amount of points to the quarterback position, the 4th most on a per game basis. Bo Nix has the upside to be that top 10, top 8 guy. His rushing upside makes him a safe bet to finish inside the top 18. And with me loving this matchup, I got him ranked as a high upside QB2. Now, Andy Dalton today on Tuesday was involved with his family in a car accident in Charlotte. Now, no one got transported by medical personnel, which is great to hear. And I don't want to sound like a prick, because I get that he's dealing with this, but holy shit, he has looked so bad. He went from the red rifle to the red fucking water gun, the red BB gun. After his Linsanity run of weeks 3 and 4 as a top 12 quarterback, he has been nothing short of a disaster. Last week, he was the quarterback 35. And there are 30 fucking quarterbacks starting because there were 2 teams on bye. Quarterback 35. 11 of 16 for 93 yards and 2 picks up against the Commanders defense that I wouldn't wipe my ass with. No way. No way I'm playing him up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Fuck no, baby. Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Gardner Minshew came back into the game in the first quarter after Aiden O'Connell injured his hand, and his play was so bad that it was genuinely shocking. Now, we all know Gardner's not that great, But it was bad. Like, genuinely, if you could give a baby, a fucking newborn, a kid that just came out his mom's hoo-ha, right? And this motherfucker, this baby, this child, hand him the controller, he plays Madden, he might look better, or she, under center than Gardner Minshew. He was the quarterback 37 again. Only 30 fucking starting quarterbacks, quarterback 37, 0 touchdowns with 3 picks. He looked like Stevie Wonder out there. And honestly, I am starting to Stevie Wonder how the fuck this guy even has a job. Against the Chiefs, I don't expect anything good. Sit him. No Adams. Receivers suck. Don't start him. Patrick Mahomes is a sit as well. Now, I know, in reality, Mahomes will crack my top 18, which will be a start-worthy quarterback, but he's been such a letdown. It feels like you stepped onto a landmine when you selected him. He has had one game inside the top 12 in fantasy football. When was that? Back in week 1. And week 1 is almost like a cop-out because a lot of quarterbacks didn't even play that good that week. So his top 12 finish wasn't even impressive. It was hard not to be a top 12 quarterback because the quarterbacks played like shit. The matchup against the Raiders is finger-licking good. He's Mahomes. He could obviously have a good game. But if he's just going to finish as like the quarterback 13 to 18 every single week, what is the fucking point in playing him? Why would you play him over Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix might bend you over the table, but Bo Nix could actually have a big game. Mahomes just doesn't do it anymore. I cannot justify starting him. Next up, we move to the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers on "'Cause you waited all day for Sunday night." Big Cock Brock Purdy has been promoted to Horse Cock Brock after back-to-back top 8 showings. Even with him throwing the ball 3 times straight to the defense, he had a great bailout special up against the Chiefs where he rushed in 2 touchdowns and passed for over 200 yards. With him losing Ayuk and probably losing Deebo Samuel due to him being sick. Speedy recovery for him. My confidence isn't the highest, but with the Cowboys defense allowing the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks per game, I got Brock as a low-end quarterback 1. Now for Dak Prescott, Dakota, some people will have Dak listed as a start. But honestly, with how this team looked up against the Lions, I'm not ready to allow this man back into my lineup. I'm happy that the man got engaged because that's the only ring this sorry motherfucker is going to get. That is the only ring he will ever get. Jerry Jones has failed this team. Mike McCarthy is too busy stuffing his face at Denny's to give a singular fuck about this team. The Cowboys are a disaster. Dak Prescott can't play against good teams. He just can't. He cannot do it. He cannot. 17 of 33 up against Lions for 178 yards and 2 interceptions with 0 touchdowns. Against good teams, Dak Prescott panics like it's the first time you went to go talk to a woman and you're panicking, you're shaking, you're getting a little bit nervous, and honestly, your cock might get a little bit hard, and it's very concerning. It's like, oh my God, well, hopefully she doesn't notice, and then you're putting your because this probably happened when you're in school, right? And then all of a sudden, your binders are over your Johnson, and she definitely knows what's happening because you're nervous. You're scared. You're petrified, and that's what Dak Prescott looks like. Hike! Wait, what does he say? Yeah, here we go. And then he snaps the ball. He does all that work just to throw it straight to the defense. I'm tired of him. I am so tired of him, and I don't want to sit here and waste your guys' time. Nick, we don't need to hear a 10-minute rant about Dak Prescott. Nick, you're not even a Cowboys fan. Why do you care so much? Because I'm so tired of this team. I'm so tired of what happens with Dak Prescott. He is a good quarterback, but in some of these games, up against good teams, he fails. And he always does. I think you'd be nuts to start him. If you have the nuts to, go ahead, but I won't be doing it. Next up, we got the final game here. Monday Night Football, the G-Men, the Giants, at the Steelers. Now, Daniel Jones might not be good. He might not, he is not good, right? That's the real truth of things. He's not good. But his offensive line is doing him 0 favors. He is getting plowed left and right, and he takes more sacks to the face than Lisa Ann. 7 sacks last week. And honestly, it might get worse against the Steelers. TJ Watt is going to hit him so hard. Regardless of how good Malik Neighbors is, I don't think he alone can carry Danny Dimes out of this. He is a clear must sit. Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson cooked up a chef's kiss performance against a stout Jets defense last week in prime time. Despite coming out the gate, limp dick, he dialed in and got it up as the game went on. 16 completions on 29 attempts for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as a quarterback sneak rushing tug. He was the quarterback 3. While the Giants defense is underrated, Russie belongs in the quarterback 2 range with clear top 8 upsides. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money, as well as leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And make sure you guys do check out Underdog promo code Notorious, or click on the link in the video description to get the Victor Wembanyama higher than half of a total point free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Again, if you're watching this after Victor Wembanyama already played on Wednesday, then if you click the link or use code Notorious, you'll just receive a different free picks. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Have a great one, and as always, good boy!